Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of 51 Stories. Today, I have with me Sindhu, a young, smart lady who's a graduate in engineering, and she works at Walmart as a senior technical program manager. She's worked with diverse MNCs, and today, the woman in front of me is someone with a lot of grit and determination and who loves to champion the cause of mental health. So thank you so much for being with me today, Sindhu. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Pragati. It's my pleasure. And congratulations on, the work. It's really interesting. And I'm really happy that you've brought in so many, diverse variety of topics here. There's a huge, wide spectrum of, topics that you cover in each of these series. And it's getting interesting. And I'm glad that you're doing it. And I wish you all the best for, the next set of series that are upcoming. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Sindhu. So tell me something about your personal journey. What makes Sindhu today? Something from your early childhood to some experiences that you have had. I would love to know.
All right. So I'm from Bangalore. I'm a very typical South Indian and born and brought up in Bangalore. My parents, at a very typical middle class and very humble beginnings, that I would say. And in my school, I was someone who was academically excelling person, and I was always, on top 3, top 5 ranking. And I started my swimming journey also quite early. At the age of 6, my parents enrolled me into the nearest swimming club, and I started doing there well as well. So the childhood was more like I was more a geek, as a kid growing up, always into these debate competitions, and I was always very studious. I was very obedient and all that. And I also have roots from, my mother is from Tamil Nadu, and, I'm trained into Carnatic singing. We had to excel in, all of wide variety of things. And we had to, as kids, manage and multitask all this. And then I moved to engineering. I did my engineering in computer science. I've been working as a techie, and I mentioned in my introduction as well that I work with companies like SAP, Philips, and now with Walmart. Of course, on a more personal front, swimming is something that is very close to my heart. As a kid, I was national medalist in swimming, and just like any Indian family, where the moment you come to your 10th standard, you're supposed to stop everything else and focus on your academics, and that's exactly what happened to me. I sort of took a break from swimming for quite a while. Until I had a very bad accident where I had to undergo multiple surgeries on my legs and knees. So as part of recovery, I was advised to start swimming, and that's when I restarted my stint of swimming journey, and there's no looking back now, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. Now it's less competitive and more passionate and holistic swimming that I do. So yeah, that's how it's been so far. And I have an 8-year-old boy, and my hobby is basically spending a lot of time with him, being engaged with him, playing with him. That's me.
I think this is really nice, the way you've spoken about sports. And I love the fact that now swimming is more about passion than competitiveness. That being said, because this is one facet, a lot of people, when they exercise, it's either to get a perfect body or it's to, prove a point to the world, or somewhere where body dysmorphia is there, or they're not satisfied with their bodies. When they do any activity, it's because they are trying to achieve that perfect body. And I love hearing you say that, that I swim because it's a passion. And that, I think, is something which is very important for our emotional well-being, because an activity that we love brings out a facet in ourselves which we are not even aware of. So any kind of struggle, a mental health struggle, anyone's journey that you have witnessed that kind of brought it to your light, that mental health is not something which has to be shoved in the closet, I would love to hear about it.
Sure, Pragati. So I definitely had, I've had, and I still continue to have several glitches here and there about my mental health. And I'm very cognizant about, recognizing that and identifying that. Honestly, when it all began, even I was into a sort of a denial that, it's probably normal that people face about it. People have, there's nothing unusually attention that it requires. And that's how, with that sort of skepticism that, I started with as well. So, so when I took a series of assessments, when I took a series of evaluation, I found out that I had really severe levels of, OCD and OCPD. And honestly, although it all started very, in a very funnily manner, when I was in school, when college, my friends and cousins, they used to, call me Monica, the character Monica from the Friends,
Yes.
the old series Friends. So they would say, you're exactly like her, and they would make fun of it. And I know there's, to some level, it's sort of funny, it's hysterical. But then, a lot of times this is actually the main reason that has, contributed, or that's been the main cause of a lot of anxiety and stress in me. And it's very easy for someone outside of it to look, why are you worried about your house not being in order? You have an 8-year-old son, just don't care, let it go, just go to bed. But it's not so easy as someone who has that OCD, as someone who has that, obsession over being very organized, obsession over things being in order. So sometimes it just, it used to get in a very alarming levels. Now, honestly, I'm someone who has a checklist. The moment I get up in the morning, I have a checklist for the entire day. I have a to-do list for the entire day, and I have to tick them off. So it's a sort of obsession that, if I don't tick them off, I feel that something is going abnormal. I am going off track. I'm probably inadequate. So the whole, catastrophic feelings comes over. And this especially became a problem when I became a mother. So for one thing, of course, the postpartum depression is in you, and there are hormones all over the place. And you're just playing a new role altogether. There's a life in your hands to take care of, and you're first of all overwhelmed. And second of all, the people around you, the society, the environment is always putting you under scrutiny, right? You're the mother, the baby cries, the first thing that people say is, mother is probably not feeding well, or the mother is not cleaning the baby, the mother has not changed the diaper. So these are the things that I kept hearing over and over again. And first of all, I'm overwhelmed. And there's a lot of, the postpartum feelings that start off. And then here is the OCD that is making things worse. I have a timetable for myself to sleep at this time. I wanted the baby to sort of get used to a timing, which never happens. The babies don't come with the user manual.
It's true.
And then, it's just making things worse. And that is the time that I realized that I need to reach out to help. You're talking to your parents, talking to my friends and family was not really working out, because they had their own opinions, they had their experience, which was not fitting into, my solution. So that's when I reached out to help. I spoke to, I took treatments, I took medications, I took therapies, I took counselings. And it really helped me control my OCD and use the OCD issue that I have in a most positive and, use it as my strength rather than, making things worse for my own mental and emotional health. So that was, one of the issues that I had. And of course, the OCPD, it's even more, a step, it requires a lot of attention and requires a lot of retrospection, especially when you have an OCPD issue. Because, the constant feeling of inadequacy, if I don't achieve something, I'm not good enough. If I'm not ticking off my checklist, I'm not good enough. My day did not go well. And, the constant feeling of inadequacy kept taking over. And, the eating disorder, of course, is one of something that, we women always tend to sort of ignore. We say it is stress eating. You tend to, resort to comfort foods like, a lot of sweets, a lot of salty foods. In fact, this is a eating disorder. And it's very important for us to sort of recognize that and, call it out as it's something serious, right? It's not just something, okay, you drink some water and you're going to be fine about it. That's not going to happen. So this needs a sort of a counseling. It needs a therapy to get over it. You need to recognize that you are having an eating disorder. So these are some things that I was able to sort of, understand, be cognitive about it, because I reached out for help.
I like this facet, that you have the courage to seek help. See, the whole point of this series and why we are talking about it, as we were discussing earlier also, people feel that if I am seeking help, means I'm acknowledging a problem. People will come to know. But what people don't realize is, hey, the therapist is trained to help you out. The psychiatrist is is trained to help you out in such a way that you function better. Perhaps it's like diabetes, if you know that you need to take insulin, and then you make lifestyle changes to manage your diabetes. So even if it's something which is not curable or the prognosis is not good, but you can actually learn to manage yourself and your symptoms. And thank you so much for sharing that, because a lot of people feel that, oh, if I say I have OCD, then people are going to judge me. And I love the way you picked up a popular character like Monica from Friends. And, so we can always add humor to our situation and be willing to work at ourselves. Because what I have seen over the years, see, when you courageously reach out for help and are willing to work at yourself, frankly, you can reach the zenith of your potential. It doesn't matter what labeling you have, what challenges you have, because the human spirit is so powerful. It makes each one of us rise beyond our struggles. So,
Right. And every time, I mean, it was honestly not very easy for me also to come out of it. Like I said, the other generation of people around you might not be really empathetic about what you're going through, right? So when I had these kind of feelings and I would reach out to someone in the family or friends or any close circle that I had, people were like, you are a sports person. I mean, as a sports person, you are supposed to, have that kind of resilience. You're supposed to have that kind of grit. I mean, I don't see a reason why you should be even depressed about. You have everything around you. There's nothing to feel anxiety about, right? But then that's when you also start thinking about it. And am I really overacting? Am I really being paranoid about it? But then that's when, so if you have actually seen several sports person, they take Michael Phelps, for example. I mean, he's my guru, he's my idol, I worship. He comes from my own sport.
yes.
And he's supposed to be the most celebrated, Olympian in the history of mankind. And this is the man who actually struggled with a plethora of mental issues, right? And he was in the rehabilitation. He wrote a book about himself, and he today is an advocate of, mental health. He promotes mental health wherever he goes. And when a legend like him can actually have mental health issues and can be open and openly talk about it, I mean, what am I? So, that's when I started letting go of, I don't care what people think. People are like, to mental health, yeah, why do you have to even go there? That is the first thing that people react as. And now I just don't care. I mean, I've seen legendary sports person who seek out help. There's Simone Biles. There are a couple of other swimmers that I know of, and
And
there's nothing.
very rightly you pointed out, the ones who don't seek help, like Robin Williams. I mean, what amazing movies he's made. He's made us all laugh. But when we don't acknowledge something which needs nurturing and caring, we are only spelling disaster for ourselves. And what the best thing is, in my training as a clinical psychologist, just one thing was told to me, that, mental health is on a continuum. It doesn't matter. Our mental health is like on the curve of a pendulum. It can oscillate if we don't take care. If you have a diagnosis, you perhaps need medication or some support, which is available. Like you and I are talking. We're taking the support of a computer to connect with each other. We are on opposite corners of the globe, but it doesn't matter. And, I think with mental health, when people like you, people like me, people like everybody else who's watching us start conversing about mental health as though it's something normal, like talking about the weather, talking about your grades, talking about the food you like to eat, that's when, people will get timely help about their mental health. So how is it that you feel today about yourself?
So honestly, thankfully, I have reached out for help, and I have sought support at the right time, at the right place, which has actually helped me cope up with my, even today, I of course go through anxiety. I of course have panic attacks. I of course have, I start getting worried about my OCD. All of a sudden pops up when the house is not in order. Honestly, I have breathlessness and all that. So I have been at least guided with, I have been counseled with a set of ways of dealing with it. So one thing is, I know it takes a lot of extra effort for me to pursue my sport, but I ensure I don't give up on it. It gives me that balance. It gives me a sense of balance mentally, physically, emotionally, and everything. I also ensure that I incorporate yoga. I at least include a few minutes of meditation per day. And I'm a big follower of Robin Sharma, and I just love his podcast. I just love his master classes, and the kind of the engaging the self-improvement tools that he comes up with. So he talks about something called 20-20-20 rule, which is the moment you get up in the morning, and always rise early in the morning. So the moment you get up in the morning, 20 minutes of a rigorous physical workout or activity or something like that, followed by a 20 minutes of a gratitude, writing down how you're feeling for the day. Are you more relaxed? Are you more engaged? Are you more mindful? And 20 minutes of listening to anything that is a positive podcast. It could be his own lectures, or it could be something something positive. So I very cognizantly follow this. I am very I very diligently follow this every single day. And that is actually, so these are the few things that I have incorporated in my life, and I try to bring in the same principles even with my son, because the kids these days are, my god, the amount of competition that's around, the amount of pressure is good, but these pressures turns into stress for these kids. And I know of, and every time I've gone to a counselor, I've seen very young children. I have seen 10-year-old having anxieties, 12-year-olds having anxieties. So when I look at all that, I feel I don't want a heavily talented multi-talent son. I just want someone who is a very calm and relaxed child. So I try to bring in all these things to my son. I want him to listen to something positive. I want him to practice yoga, meditation, and all that. People think it's too early for a 80-year-old to do that, but then I want to start early.
This is very pertinent, because the entire adult personality is formed by the time a child is 7. I wish more parents were mindful about it. So when I wrote Hope Stories for a Healthy Mind, that's what my endeavor was, that parents start having conversations about mental health with their children, so that like children talk about drawing, like children talk about stories or the sports they are playing, they also talk about their mental health, so that these disorders that you're talking about when they are 10, 12, or they start struggling, they know that help is available, or they know how to voice it. When you voice it, the thoughts don't seem tangled in the head. Thoughts can actually very systematically be put in order. And the way you shared about your emotional ability resources, simple activities, listening to a favorite life coach or a motivational speaker, listening to his podcast, doing some physical activity. So you are generating oxytocin and endorphins in your body very naturally. And, this is what is really, really important. So who has been your role model that you can think of?
Honestly, my role model has been my father. He was into sports as well. He was an engineer, and he excelled at his work. And he's someone who also taught me to have that integrity while I'm working. He ensures that I am showing all the excellence at my work. I don't I am 100% productive. And he has not really raised me into believing that I need to feel guilty as a mother who is working or something like that. He's raised me just like he wants me to be independent. He wants me to take care of my finances, and he also wants me to raise my son in the same way. And he's someone that I have also seen him manage his work really well, manage his relationships really well, manage home really well. I know growing up was quite a challenge and a lot of difficulties that he had, but none of it was something that he ensured that none of it was actually shown to me or my brother. So that's the kind of upbringing that I had, and I really look up to him even now about the way he manages relationship, the way he manages home, the way he keeps his cool, the way he, the kind of emotional resilience that he has. So that is something that I really look up to in my father.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I also wanted to ask you, earlier in the day, we were talking about someone's personal struggle, which no one had any clue about. So any colleague or any acquaintance you have come across, who was struggling with mental health, and perhaps timely help would have saved that person. I would like you to share that story with our viewers, please.
Sure. And yeah, honestly, this incident was a big eye opener for me, because honestly, even I was someone who was, okay, mental health, I was convinced into believing that mental health is someone you talk about because we have a privilege to talk about it, because our older generation had much more struggles to go through. They had a lot of hardships in their life, but still did not talk about mental health, and nobody had depression or something like that. And so this was my colleague, and he was doing really well at work. He was excelling in his work, and he graduated from one of the top universities, and he in fact was growing up the career ladder really fast. He was, back to back promotions, progressions, everything was going quite well. And so there was one conversation I had on a weekend with him on a Saturday night, and we were speaking at length about something that was upcoming for the next week, and we had some major deliveries to be done. We had some major releases to be done into production, and it was a 20-25 minute telephone conversation I had. And on a Monday morning, I received a call from his number. It was basically the police guys, and they called me saying that he was no more, and he had given up on his life. And I was honestly taken aback. He was also my neighbor, and I dropped by at his place, and there was extreme amount of chaos around. It was a legal issue, and after a couple of days of all the postmortem, the autopsy, and they tried to dig out what went wrong. He sounded quite normal. In fact, when I spoke to him as well, it didn't seem like there was something amiss, or it didn't seem anything abnormal when he was talking to me. And this was just 2 days before this happened.
Mhm.
And after the postmortem report came, we understood that he had overdosed on his anxiety pills, on his sleeping pills, and whatever medication that he was on. And that's when people actually found out that he was on medication. He was getting treated for depression for nearly 6 to 7 months. And this is something that none of his family members knew about, none of his friends knew about, none of his colleagues knew about. So this was something that actually shocked me. I was really shaken, because someone, when I spoke to, and he had actually procured these medicines, he had bought these medicines about 5 days before, he had planned the whole thing. So essentially, which means that when I actually spoke to him, he had everything planned out. And honestly, that took me a little aback. A 25-minute conversation about work, and I didn't even ask him, how was he feeling. It just took me probably a few minutes to ask him how he was, and maybe he could have, he probably would have broken down. Maybe he could have spoken to me about it, and maybe I could have saved his life. I had a lot of guilt as well, being the last few people who spoke to him on the phone before the unfortunate incident. Now, that was one thing that I was shocked about. Didn't he actually feel that this was something he could talk about to his own parents? He didn't feel, this was such a taboo for him. He was so ashamed of it that he didn't talk about it with his friends. This is a serious health issue. So whenever, you take leave from work, you talk about, what, I'm not, I'm calling in sick today. I'm taking off today. I'm ill today. I'm on sickness leave today. So he didn't have the courage to also take off from work for a while because he was sick. He was actually diagnosed sick. And, he has not opened up about it with anyone, which actually, infers that he was ashamed of it. If this is the kind of environment that we give people who have mental health issues, where people are very scared to talk about it and ultimately resort to, last resorts like this, I think we are in serious trouble. That's when I realized it. And especially as men also, they tend to take a backseat when it comes to depression. Man up, be a man. That's the kind of words that they get to hear, right? Why do you have to feel depressed? You're a man. You don't have to cry. These are the things that men hear about. And these are the things that actually are, being a mother of a son, I'm really worried about all these kind of things. And this was an eye opener for me, and I've been more I look at more awareness these days. I try to advocate, I try to campaign wherever I get an opportunity about mental health, and mental health especially for men.
Actually, this is a very pertinent point you've raised, raising men. How do we raise them to be emotionally available, to be emotionally vocal, because society has not permitted it up till now.
Right.
Be a man. How can you think these things? So I think one way what we are doing is our own small endeavor to spread awareness, keep emotions are healthy. And sometimes, just asking another person or humanizing that interaction, hey, how are you feeling? Just may offer that support to someone who's struggling. So
Right.
I really like this that you brought about, that just that 1 minute realization, where you just offer that smile to a colleague and ask, hey, how are you feeling today? It just gives person an opportunity to open up. And with that, we forge connections and we never feel alone. So that was really, really wonderful. Any tip that you want to leave our viewers with before we sign off?
I think the main topic that we're talking about is prioritizing mental health as much as your physical health. So we all know that, we invest so much in our physical health. We join gyms, we consult, we pay a fortune to dietitians, nutritionists to take care of our diet and all that. But as much as, the investment that we do in physical health, I think we also need to start investing on mental health. So it's very important to, first of all, recognize the fact that, you have an issue, you have anxiety, and it needs to be either treated. It need not be something, people are very hesitant about medication as well. It need not necessarily be medication or something which is harmful to your body. It's as good as any sort of medication. So people need to reach out, for help whenever, whenever it's necessary. They need to identify that they need help. And a lot of people stay in denial. A lot of people are denial about it, right? Let's be honest about it. So I think that is one thing. And the second thing is, the people around as well need to be empathetic about it. There's nothing wrong about, there's nothing abnormal about having a mental health issue. People don't look at you as abnormal. Even if someone in office is probably going to take off saying that he or she has a mental health issue, I think people have to be supportive about it and not have, a sort of skepticism about their performances. I think that is another major, taboo that, or a stigma that has to be removed. I think the third thing is, of course, having hobbies. Invest your time, invest in yourself, invest in, a lifelong learning. Learn something new. That's how you keep your brains active, brain cells active, and pursue a hobby. It could be anything at all. So, give yourself that, my goals, my ambitions, my time, and my hobbies sort of factor into your life. I think that's really important. Is what I feel.
So thank you so much, Sindhu. You've aptly demonstrated, have an issue, give ear to it. Pay attention and also give it emotional ability resources so that you can manage and cope up. Help is always available. It's indeed been a pleasure, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pragati.